Welcome to the 2025 Symons Medal Presentation and Lecture on the State of Canadian Confederation, proudly presented annually at Confederation Centre of the Arts. Awarded to Canadians who have made outstanding contributions to our country, previous recipients include Mary Simon, Dr. David Suzuki, the Honourable Murray Sinclair, the Honourable Louise Arbour, Shelagh Rogers, the Honourable Frank McKenna, and Christy Clark. A total of 27 recipients have been granted the award, hailing from coast to coast to coast. The Symons ceremony is held in the birthplace of Confederation to mark the anniversary of the Charlottetown Conference of 1864. Since long before that historic meeting, Prince Edward Island has been known as Epiquet to the Mi'kmaq people, who have lived here for more than 10,000 years. We proudly move forward together in the spirit of reconciliation and to continue the ongoing conversation of an evolving Canada. Since 2004, the Symons Lecture Series has provided a national platform for diverse and distinguished Canadians to share their thoughts on the current state of Confederation, giving all Canadians the opportunity to reflect upon our country and its future. Named in honor of the late Professor Thomas Symons, a visionary and founding president of Trent University, Professor Symons was widely recognized for his contributions in the areas of public policy, heritage, and education. The 2025 Symons Medal recipient is award-winning author Miriam Toews. This internationally acclaimed author has written best-selling novels and a memoir and is celebrated worldwide for her wit, compassion, and unforgettable storytelling. Her artistry has earned honors such as the Governor General's Award and the Writers' Trust Fiction Prize. As the 2025 Symons Medal recipient, Ms. Toews will take to the stage to share her reflections on Canada through the lens of her life and work as one of the country's most vital literary voices. We can all look forward to a riveting and inspiring event.
Nous allons maintenant vous présenter la lauréate de la médaille Symons 2025, Miriam Toews, avant de l'inviter à monter sur la scène avec le lieutenant-gouverneur pour la présentation de la médaille. À la suite de la cérémonie de présentation, nous allons aussi inviter Shelagh Rogers à monter sur la scène avec nous. Shelagh, comme vous le savez bien, est non seulement une animatrice célèbre de la radiodiffusion, mais aussi lauréate de la médaille Symons 2022. Pour la première fois dans la tradition de la médaille Symons, la lauréate de 2022 animera alors, comme elle fait mieux que quiconque, un échange avec la lauréate 2025, Miriam Toews.
Miriam Toews is one of Canada's most beloved novelists. Throughout her career, her novels have consistently found a place in both bestseller lists and short lists of our nation's most prestigious literary prizes. Her breakout book, A Complicated Kindness, won the 2004 Governor General's Award for Fiction and the 2006 edition of the CBC Canada Reads, and has received great international acclaim. Her next novel, The Flying Troutmans, won the 2008 Rogers Writers' Trust Award, a prize Toews won for a second time in 2014 with her novel, All My Puny Sorrows. All My Puny Sorrows also won the Italy's 2015 Sinbad Prize for Foreign Fiction and appeared on shortlists for the Folio Prize and Welcome Book Prize in the UK. Recognized for her deft turn of phrase and her ability to infuse tragic circumstances into humor, her books have been translated into more than 20 languages.
Née et élevée à Steinbach, au Manitoba, et descendante directe des premiers colons mennoniques de Steinbach, l'œuvre de Toews explore la lutte de l'individu pour trouver la liberté au sein de systèmes de pensée fermés. Toews a quitté Steinbach à l'âge de 18 ans pour passer quelque temps à Montréal et à Londres, en Angleterre, avant de s'installer à Winnipeg, où elle a obtenu un baccalauréat en études cinématographiques à l'Université du Manitoba et ensuite un baccalauréat en journalisme à l'Université King's College à Halifax. Depuis, elle a reçu 5 doctorats honorifiques ainsi que l'Ordre du Manitoba et l'Ordre du Canada. Le 3e livre de Toews, Jamais je ne t'oublierai, publié en 2000, est un mémoire écrit à la première personne dans la voix de son père, peu après son suicide. Le livre a été immédiatement salué comme un classique de la littérature moderne sur la maladie mentale et a remporté le prix Alexander Kennedy Isbister pour la non-fiction et le prix McNally Robinson du livre de l'année. Pauvre petit chagrin décrit la relation tumultueuse entre 2 sœurs, l'une voulant mourir, l'autre voulant que sa sœur reste en vie. Il a été adapté au cinéma par Michael McGowan en 2021. Les romans de Toews mettent souvent en scène des voyages et des personnes itinérantes qui tentent d'échapper à une autorité inflexible ou qui doivent survivre à un traumatisme personnel. Mon favori personnel dans ce genre est certainement Fight Night, où le rapport d'une énorme tendresse entre Grandma et sa petite-fille, Swiv, est à la fois profondément émouvante, drôle à vous faire éclater de rire et tout à fait inoubliable.
Toews has also appeared on the big screen, where she had a leading role in the film Silent Light, written and directed by Mexican filmmaker Carlos Regadas, winner of the 2007 Cannes Jury Prize, an experience that informed her 5th novel, Irma Voth. She was nominated for Best Actress at Mexico's Ariel Awards for that performance. In 2022, Toews went to the Academy Awards in Los Angeles to see a film adaptation of her novel Women Talking by Sarah Polley, nominated for Best Picture. She has just published her 10th book, a memoir entitled A Truce That Is Not Peace. Miriam has traveled here today from Toronto and is joined by her editor and friend, Lynn Henry. And now, Confederation Centre of the Arts is proud to present the 2025 Symons Medal to Miriam Toews. Please welcome her to the stage. Miriam.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. I just really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm gonna say thank you to a few people. And I rehearsed this. I went over this, and yet I'm still, it's like the first time. I'm like, so blown away, really, and a little bit verklempt. So I'll thank a few people, and then I just want to read a little thing that I wrote, and then Sheila and I will start our conversation. Thank you for the introduction. It was beautiful, and it's such an honor to be here today with all of you to receive the Symons Medal. It's wonderful to be in Charlottetown, where I haven't been for, 40 years or something like that. And I want to thank you to, there we go. Okay, now. No wonder it all seems so overwhelming. Thank you to Kateri Code and to the Lieutenant Governor, Wassim Salamoun, to Premier Rob Lance, to the Symons Medal Committee co-chairs Bob Sear and Ralph Heintzman, and thank you to Steve Bellamy and to absolutely everybody here at the Confederation Centre of the Arts. Thank you so much. So much of what we do as writers and artists is in direct conflict with the establishment, with society, and with conventional systems of oppression, with institutions. We're outsiders and cranks and subversives and fighters and skeptics and depressives If we're not outright anarchists, we're definitely anarchic souls. So when we are given prizes like this, a prize for meaning something to Canada, to Canadians, it does give pause. What does it mean? What does that meaning mean in this case, in my case? And I think what it means, or what I can ascertain that it means, is that my particular fight is actually also the fight of many others. My struggle is your struggle, my joy is your joy, my jokes are your jokes. We're in this thing together, and that's so gratifying. To be told essentially that people are listening, people are with me. I'm not an outlier. I'm saying something that many other people are also saying and feeling. This is humbling and empowering at the same time. And it takes the shape, in my mind, of a beautiful and collective solidarity of souls. I'm not alone, you're not alone. That's what this prize means to me. So thank you again. It's an incredible honor, and I know my father, if he were here, would be the proudest Canadian right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toews. Shelagh Rogers is not only a beloved Canadian journalist, Chancellor of Queen's University, and former Chancellor of the University of Victoria, but also a 2022 Symons Medallist. We are delighted to welcome her back today to take part in this year's Symons Medal presentation. Please welcome to the stage Shelagh Rogers. Welcome back, Shelagh. We're delighted to have you with us here today on the stage again, and we look forward eagerly to the next part of this ceremony. A first for the Symons Medal, a conversation as only you can do it between the 2022 Symons medalist and this year's medal recipient. So over to you and Miriam.
Thank you, everybody. I was just about to say it's lovely to see you, but it's lovely not to see you, I guess. I'm wondering, with the Lieutenant Governor here and the Premier here, and I believe the Mayor is here, and there are a number of ministers here, who's running PEI right now? I just have a question. Congratulations. I mean, I'm so thrilled for you, Miriam. This is lovely. You talked a little bit about what it means to you, but what was the call like when you found out?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously I thought it was a prank call. Maybe something my kids had concocted. But yeah, no. I mean, it was thrilling. It was so surprising. It was so like the people like yourself who have the individuals who have received this prize and this medal, and to be kind of a part of that is it's huge. It's gratifying and yeah. So it was just thrilling to receive the call.
Well, Thomas Symons was a person of great humanity, humility, compassion, and curiosity. And he founded Trent University, and he initiated Canadian studies and Indigenous studies. And I think that you are very much a person who should be honored in his light. So congratulations to you. And
thanks, Sheila.
Yeah. Can we start? I'd like to start with a word that comes up near the end of your, well, we'll talk about what this actually is in a moment, but it's a book called A Truce That Is Not Peace. It just came out very recently. And the word is fooey. and it's used very specifically near the end. But to what or to whom would you like to say fooey right now?
Oh, there's an obvious individual, isn't there? Yeah. I think, yeah, code name Agent Orange, is it?
Very good. And just as the world is full of turbulence and turmoil, how are you seeing it right now?
Yeah, well, as that, it's every day. I mean, I think, when we look at what's happening in the world all over the place, and yeah, it's just it just seems as though, it's a sort of a collective nervous breakdown in a sense, and that there seems to be very little kind of light kind of on the horizon, a little bit. It's very dark. It's very it's agonizing actually to actually really observe and see what's happening in the world in terms of war, Gaza, just the division, the hatred, the fear, but and there seems to, and whatever resistance to it exists seems to be sort of not super effectual these days, right? And so it's frightening.
I think one of the things that has happened in the recent year or so is that there seems to be license to be our worst selves, to take your phobic, transphobic, homophobic, xenophobic. How do you think Canada stands out in all of that right now?
Well, I mean, I think that Canada, I think that we are seen from the outside as a place that that is more tolerant, more cohesive as a group, more I don't know what the word, outward thinking, welcoming, all of that, but I think but that's not necessarily true. I mean, it is to some degree, but I think that all of these things that you were talking about, are also affecting Canadians. I mean, we're becoming, I feel, in a way, a society sort of, mirrored a little bit on that kind of, I think that we often look to, the United States or to other places, in terms of how, what, and that's a negative view. But on the other hand, I think that, well, I mean, we saw, with the election and that sort of thing, if I can, that there is a kind of, collective Canadian desire to do better, to kind of meet the needs of human beings and not just the, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what I wasn't really prepared for this question, Sheila, but I was like,
and I didn't send them to you in advance, but
I guess basically my feeling is that it's good to be in Canada, in terms of the world, what we see happening here, and just the Canadian sort of sensibility of that is more tolerant, more welcoming, less fearful, less hateful. That's what we like to think about ourselves, and I think that there's truth to that. But I think that is in danger too. That that maybe we're headed in a direction that, and it needs to be stopped.
Well, yeah, and I don't think we should relax, right? I think we have to be vigilant, and I think we have to keep remembering how important the truth is. And I remember, and I can't remember from where, but somewhere you said, the truth makes things so much easier, actually, not harder. Do you remember saying that?
No. Not really, but I believe you. We've had a lot of conversations in the past, but I feel that, and it's kind of terrifying sometimes to confront, to face the truth, but I think to not face the truth, to sort of live in the shadows, with our heads down is a far more terrifying position to be in.
I do have some questions that do relate to Canada. And one of them comes, and it's going to link up to a work of yours, but speaking with Lieutenant Governor Walloon last night, we were talking about immigration. And just and this country obviously is built on immigration, but the challenge of keeping up with the pouring of immigration right now without the infrastructure and the schools and everything that is needed to support people who come to Canada. And you have a story in A Boy of Good Breeding. Was that your first novel?
That was my second.
Second
Yeah.
novel. Sorry about that. What was your first novel?
Summer of My Amazing Luck.
Okay, I got them mixed up.
It was a long time ago.
But in A Boy of Good Breeding, there's a mayor, and his name is Hosea Funk. And he's a mayor of a small town, and he wants to keep the population at a specific number. And he'll do just about anything to keep it at that number. Can you tell us about him?
Yeah, and the number is 15. It was 1,500. It was at the time. When I was writing the book, I checked to see, and the premise of the book is that the mayor, in the book has agreed. Not the mayor, the Prime Minister of Canada has agreed to visit Canada's smallest town. So technically, officially, the smallest town. So the mayor of the town who believes that the Prime Minister is his biological father, really, and has never been acknowledged, really wants that visit to happen. So he's going about trying to keep the population of the town, his town, at 1,500, which is technically, officially, maybe it's no longer the case. But if you research this, that is, you need 1,500 people to be a town. So anything more would be a bigger town. And so
how does he regard his citizens? There's a real wrinkle in this.
Right. Well, he gets. It's so funny. Yeah, trying to remember back. I mean, I know he's really annoyed when there's a woman who gives birth to triplets. Like he knows that she's in the hospital. Oh, and early too, right? He was really hoping that. That she would give birth after this official count, after the visit was already, arranged. and then there are people obviously who are older, who are sick, who are dying, in the community, and he kind of, hovers around them to sort of, kind of a ghoul, like, like maybe today's the day, just to keep his numbers, going. It was, funny. It was early on in my career, that book.
Population control. When your novel Fight Night came out, that Ralph Heintzman referenced as his favorite novel, I'm very fond of it as well. We were doing a virtual interview, and this is a novel about Swiv, who is a 9-year-old, and the relationship with her very funny, sports-loving grandmother, Elvira. And I asked you, what is the fight in Fight Night? Now, I went back and I listened to it, so is it okay if I read? I know you said this. Okay. The fight is the fight to live. The fight for happiness, the fight for connection with human beings, the fight against loneliness, against alienation. There are other fights. We can fight authority and climate change and fascism and the Taliban, so very much in the news right now. But in this case, the fight is to be able to go into your heart and to love and to experience joy, to spread joy. But how challenging is that to do now?
Yeah, well, it is a challenge, isn't it? I mean, certainly. I mean, it is the fight as far as I'm concerned, and I think we were talking about these dark times, and to find joy during that time, during this time is difficult, and yet I think when we do experience it sort of suddenly, almost against our wills, it just takes on this like just this heightened kind of feeling, and a feeling that you do want to give to others, that it can be an infectious thing. And I think that experiencing that joy and sort of almost it's almost like a mental challenge as well. It's not just sort of going through life hoping that you'll experience joy. I mean, you kind of have to will it in a certain way, you know, like kind of say, okay, you know, I'm going to see things that way. I'm going to see life that way. I'm going to experience life that way. I'm going to see this connection. Right now, you know, us here talking as something that is joyful. You know, and
Two depressives talking
two
about
depressive
joy.
skeptics, yeah, tired, anxious people.
It's fun.
And it is, and the joy, and yeah, because the joy is the connection. You know, I mean, I
That's
think that is always the thing. You know, I mean, just to connect with other human beings, even if we don't necessarily meet them or know them. You know, just the idea that we're connecting with, and I think that's where, you know, art and art.
I've had two sort of big mental, what do you call them, breakdowns at the time. And I remember people telling me, happiness is a choice. Do you think happiness is a choice?
I know. I've also experienced what you experienced, and these breakdowns, these terrible crashes, and right, and in that time, I mean, can we will ourselves to be happy during those times? I don't think so. I don't think so. But maybe outside of those times. You know, outside of those times, those breakdowns, those nervous breakdowns, those you know, depressive periods of you know, mental illness. I mean, I think it's a chemical. It's an illness. You can't just. There's no deciding anything. There's no rational thought. It's just, you know, blank. It's a terrible crisis of everything. And I don't think that there's, any choice during those times. But outside of those times, I think that we have a little bit more, you know, ability to, you know, basically the mental health, to choose to be happy. What do you think?
Oh, I know that I couldn't even choose anything in those months, actually, because it was a flat line. And all I remember really about it is being so tired, and just, I wanted to stop being tired. I was just so tired. But, and this is a detail I really actually love. But I spent a lot of time on the bathroom floor, just like curled up on the bathroom floor, because everything was convenient. And I had tile imprints on my cheeks. But
you didn't have a little carpet by the couch.
I think
by
the couch in my bathroom. Very luxurious bathroom. There were carpets, there were nice towels, and I have a very good, loving husband who took care of me. But actually I couldn't make a decision if my life depended on, which it did. I don't know if you found that too, but yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Our lives depend on it, and it is. It's just you know, you're underwater.
Yeah.
You're.
I think, and just sort of looking again more broadly at Canada and Canada coming out of the pandemic, I know you've seen this with a lot of young people, and so have I, that it's just been so hard for them to plug into the life that probably you and I had. I'm older than you are, but you know, we were able to experience some real great times when we were going to university and just getting prepared to enter into the world. And I noticed how much harder it is now, thanks to that isolation. That was really tough.
Yeah, thanks to the isolation, I absolutely agree with you. And I think of, just, you know, the sort of wildness, the observedness of our lives, the freedom, you know, we were obviously, you know, we had struggles and fears and all of that, but that, the pandemic, and also, you know, social media, I mean, it's excuse me, sorry, it's a terrible, you know, I mean, there's, apologies. Yeah, I mean, there's so much fear. There's so much, you know, everything is online, everything is accessible, everything is there for you in a sense, and yet not. You know, there's all this pressure to be a certain something, to do a certain something, and I just think
We didn't
that
have social media.
we didn't have
either.
social media. I mean, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't, you know, so I mean, traveling around, for instance, yeah, you know, you just sort of hope that, you know, the person that you made arrangements with over the phone, you know, is going to show up.
So true, and we wrote letters.
And we wrote letters, and we had letters delivered to us through poste restante. Remember poste restante? Yeah, poste restante. You know, just.
Do you
know.
remember those? Are there
Yeah.
people there?
Yeah, so, you know, Miriam Toews, London, whatever, poste restante, and then so all your stuff goes to the main post office, and you go there hoping that you're gonna, you know, maybe get a letter. Never getting a letter. Maybe your parents are gonna send you some money.
Maybe, yeah. People, you know, right now, people are being canceled for saying the wrong thing, thinking the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. And in a sense, I guess, you know what it's like to be canceled because, yeah, you were excommunicated from your church in Steinbach. Can you talk about what happened?
Yeah, and yeah, like you say, everybody's afraid to speak, to act, to voice their convictions, perhaps. But certainly, yeah. When I was so I grew up in a small Mennonite town, and I was formally excommunicated by my uncle, my favorite uncle. I was, you know. But he was just doing his job, you know. He was an elder in the church, and it was only later, you know, I had already left town. I had already, and it was actually when I was living in Halifax and at journalism school. I had 2 children, you know, the wrong way, out of wedlock, 2 different fathers. I mean, everything that I did was, you know, just, you know, like. And you know, it was obvious that, you know, if I wasn't formally excommunicated, you know, I was certainly excommunicated, you know, not welcome in the church, and but then I got the letter, and yeah, it was. It didn't really affect me. That it's only now when I really think back to it, you know, in the last few years I've thought about that, you know, getting that, and how, why, how, you know, just the damage, the destruction that, you know, I mean, you know, religious fundamentalism, the rules, the laws of this church, you know, God given apparently, you know, to the male elders and, you know, employees of the church, and it's just unbelievable when I think back to my community and of the destruction that caused, families broken apart, torn apart, children from parents, couples, you know, when one or a number of, you know, the family is kicked out, is excommunicated, and the others aren't, but you're expected to, you know, also shun, you know, your beloved. I mean, it's really a form of insanity.
How did your mother react to your being excommunicated?
Oh, she was so angry. She was so angry that it was her brother who had sent me. You know, for one thing, and just that they had done that. You know, it was already implied. It was already implicit. You know, there didn't need to be this formal kind of, you know, like, you know, whatever. So yeah. I mean, she's always. My mother has always been supportive of me in my life outside of the church, but she is a member of an amazing Mennonite church in Toronto, the Danforth Mennonite Church, and very tolerant, nurturing, completely different than the church that she and I, you know, grew up in Steinbach. It's it's a progressive church that's doing good things, but you know, and the emphasis on social justice there as well, and you know, tolerance, inclusivity, everything that, you know, we certainly didn't experience in our church. So you know, there's so many things about it that anger her, but there are so many things about the church, about the Mennonite faith, that she also needs, you know, really needs, and is steadfast in.
Do you go with her?
Well, lately I've been going with her because she's 90 now, and she keeps sort of passing out and like doing, falling over. No, she's not falling over. She just sort of like, she just nods off a little bit, and so this alarms people. It doesn't alarm me anymore because it happens all the time, and then she'll just, okay, I'm ready to go. But she'll often have to lie down in church, and and so anyway, she just needs a little bit more help, and so I'm going with her. I used to just drop her off, but now I go with her. So it's very strange. I don't even know how I feel about being there, but there I am.
I remember a moment in your novel, Irma Voth, who, after she leaves her Mennonite community, she thinks of her father's words that she will be confronted by freedom, which is an amazing phrase. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it is a confrontation, isn't it? It's sort of, terrified by free. I mean, the idea of freedom, freedom's just another word for nothing left to live. I mean, you can think of freedom in so many ways. It's something that we believe in, that we want, that we think we have, that we, all the freedoms that we have that we would not want to live without. But yet, in this context, the freedom that comes from, for that character, Irma Voth, and for myself, leaving this community, leaving this rigid, this culture of such control, where the emphasis is so much on discipline and shame and guilt and silence, and to then leave it and be free in a sense. I went from my small community to Montreal. So from the most conservative, closed kind of community in the country to the most liberal, cosmopolitan, and that was free. You could say that was freedom, but it was overwhelming. I had to. So many people when they leave communities like this, it kind of go a little bit crazy. Just experience everything that the world has to offer, and then sometimes returning to the, because the world's not all it was cracked up to be, apparently. So it's having to sort of navigate all of that, so that the world, which was such a this the goal for when I was growing up, I like to get into the world. I mean, everything that was worldly was a sin, and we were supposed to be in the world but not of the world. The whole, the outside world was the where I wanted to go, where I wanted to be, and yet you have to then realize its shortcomings as well, and figure out how to find the freedom, and how to identify the type of freedom that you're searching for. Which, whether it was the freedom to just to be yourself, not to be judged, not to be condemned, not to be threatened with hell, not to be, placed in a rigid gender role as a female, So yeah, and then. But I think just overall, the sort of broad kind of like free range floating idea of freedom is just a little bit destabilizing.
I was part of an evangelical group when I was in university, and there were rules. There were, it was conservative, small c conservative. There were commandments, I guess you would say. And what there absolutely was certainty. Yeah. This is right. This is the way. What do you think of certainty?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Sorry. Anyway, no, I mean, it's sort of like, sorry. It's like,
let me tell you.
You led me. That was a gimme, but no, I don't know. Yeah, you tell me. I don't know, but no, but I don't believe in it. Yeah. I certainly don't believe in it, but yeah, it's that certainty. It's so, I mean, it can just make you crazy. Like the grown men and women, people that are our parents, our teachers, our pastors, our whatever, whoever they are, living with that kind of certainty, and if it's even true, if they really do feel that certainty, maybe in their darkest moments, private moments, they're like, I don't have a clue, but I'm gonna assert this type of authority, this certain authority over the others, because it's a form of asserting it over themselves, and creating that kind of security for themselves, but needing to do it through others. I don't know. It's but it's. I'm really surprised that you were a part of that group, and like that really surprises me.
Well, I was, and I think what I've thought about it a lot. I was, my parents had split up just before I went to university, and I think I was looking for another family, and I did find it for 3 years. And then I was going to move in with a dear friend who just divorced her husband, and she was only 24. And my group said no, that what I couldn't be with her. She should have upheld the vows that she made before God. And I thought, look, she's 24, and she's got her whole life ahead of her, and this was a good decision. And so I left, I guess. If I had been a born-again Christian, I kind of was unborn at that moment, maybe. And and then I kind of went crazy. I don't know about you, but I just kind of did everything.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I know. I was also, my parents weren't divorcing, but certainly I was looking for that kind of whatever it was, but outside of, outside, I mean, I had that, the rules and the evangelical thing, and was searching. So I totally understand that. And I understand the kind of, going a little, you just don't know who you are without somebody telling you who you are. I mean, that's probably the situation for everybody, really, when you're going from, being a child to being an adult, moving out, being on your own, and just it's a crazy time, and so for anybody to be certain during that time, is obviously an alien.
I felt that, and thanks for not asking exactly what I meant by I did everything, because I just think we should leave it there.
I think I can imagine it, but being born again. I had a pin actually that said I wanted to be born. I wanted to be born again, but Mom said no.
Oh, that's really good. I like that.
I thought it was funny. Yeah. Anyway.
When you were being introduced, and this is well known about all of your works, that I think you kind of do the emotional splits. You can go from the deepest tragedy of loss of family and into the next moment. There's something that is so maybe slapstick or comedic or like downright, as it said on the screen, side-splittingly funny. And even in a book like Women Talking, but I do want to go back to Fight Night for a moment. And I love Grandma explaining why she says, good luck, have fun, don't work too hard when someone leaves, because it's the most subversive thing you can say, because they don't believe in luck, they didn't believe in luck, fun was a sin, and work was the only thing you were supposed to do. I just love that so much. Right, I mean, I don't think you're maybe consciously thinking about this when you're writing, but what do you think the role is of humor in subverting those kind of strictures?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's in this kind of in the community that I'm from, and those were words that my mother said every day, several times a day, and still does. And I say it to my children, and probably my children are saying it to their children. But I think that the role of humor, I mean, the subversive humor. I mean, to live in these types of communities where with the rules, with the structure, and particularly the rules pertaining to women. You have to find a way of busting out of that, at least in your own mind. So that there you have to give voice at least to a little bit of subversion, anarchy, kind of chaos, and in your own mind. you know, even if on the outside it appears as though you're really towing the line, but just to engage that. And I think that's where the humor comes from. And I think that you know, there's that notion of kind of throwing stones against the castle walls. You know, I think that not, you know, my sister, my mother, all sorts of women that I knew in my community, we knew how to toe the line. We knew how to, you know, not be excommunicated, you know, up until the point when we weren't willing to do that. But at the same time, you know, sort of relieving that impulse to mock authority, to make jokes about it. You know, when I first started writing, I had this little like saying written on the wall, and it was, you know, slay hypocrisy with jokes, and that was a kind of, you know, sort of motto, credo that I, you know, really adhered to and you know, thought about a lot. And I think that just the hypocrisy, like just the bullshit of these communities and the lies, you know, like having, I think the only way to kind of navigate that is with humor, or you leave, you know.
Even in Women Talking, which is a book about events that took place in an isolated Mennonite community in Bolivia, in which women and girls were being drugged and sexually assaulted in their own beds by a ring of men from their colony. So there's often dry humor in how the women view the understanding of their faith. And one woman tells the person who is writing their story, August, that she had everything she wanted. All she had to do was convince herself that she wanted very little, you know? So, and finding the funny, do you just see it or do you search for it?
I don't know. I think that, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of an organic thing. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I just think, you know, in terms of the art, like the musicality or the rhythm, the pacing of work, of the narrative, you know, in crafting that, I just like the, you know, I like that rhythm and of dark and light. But I also just feel that they just are always inextricably entwined, darkness and light. I mean, you know, you can't have one without the other, right? And certainly for me, it's you know, it's just how I see the world. I see the world as, you know, it's really a dark and tragic place that's also very funny and absurd. You know, I mean, there's a great deal of comedy, you know, happening, and I think and also I think just too for me, you know, when I was a kid growing up, that was kind of the role that was put on me. You know, the role, you know, I was my mom's kind of little sidekick in a sense. You know, my father and my sister were so often, you know, ill, in bed, silent, you know, and in despair. There was a you know, that darkness in the home, in our home, and I think when I came along, you know, 6 years after my sister, I sort of I saw you know, a need and attempted to fill that need, or like a position, or it was, you know, kind of the onus was put on me to be a little bit of a clown in order to maybe get a smile, maybe get a laugh from, you know, these people who were so mysteriously seeming to be in such darkness, cut off.
They both, you lose them both. They both died by suicide. And at this point, I will just say, if this is troubling, there's a suicide crisis helpline that is new for Canada, 988, if you're experiencing any distress in this. But I do want to ask you, Miriam, if you understood why your father and your sister chose that way to go out. Yeah.
I mean, it's something that I'm attempting to understand and will for the rest of my life. I sometimes feel that that I do, and sometimes I don't. I think that's just the nature of that specific grief that comes from loved ones who have killed themselves. It's the nature of it. I mean, it's a very specific. I feel that they fought, both my father and my sister fought so hard for so long, and when my sister, for instance, was asking me, please, will you please, my father had already died by suicide, and that was a complete shock to all of us. Or maybe not so much to my mother, but certainly to me it was, and maybe not so much to my sister either. But when my sister, started making attempts, we knew that it was just a question of when, really, obviously attempting to prevent that from happening. But so when she did, she begged me to go with her to Switzerland, to one of these clinics. For assisted dying, and I said at the time, no, like that was just not on the tape, like that was not, and to this day it's my biggest regret. I wish that I had done that, but in the moment, it was like, no, of course not. Now, and I said to her, you have to fight. You have to fight. And she looked at me and she said, Miriam, I have been fighting for 40 years. And that was such a revelation, And so when I think of, you asked me, do I understand why they did what they did, I only need to think of that, and then I can say, yeah.
So much of what you've described is reflected in All My Puny Sorrows. And I want to ask you about the way that your books are labeled. I mean, do you appreciate the labels of this is fiction, this is nonfiction, this is autofiction, this is whatever?
I don't appreciate or not appreciate. I think it's just, it's just, the language used to describe these things, and the labels put in place for so that we know when we're what we're looking for, what we want to read, what go to a bookstore, or how a publisher markets something, tries to sell something, all of these things. But as far as for me, it doesn't quite. The labels are never, the full picture. Are we male? Are we female? Well, I don't know. Really, we're a little of everything. But this is my theory these days. But yeah, it's so, I don't know. And then truth too, as a memoir. It's being called a memoir. I call it it's a memoir. It's okay, it's a memoir. But really, it's just I don't know what it is actually.
You call it the thing.
My editor is here. I think she could probably tell me better. But the thing, it's the thing. I think of it as an essay or a poem or an argument with myself, or a confrontation with myself.
Is everything you've written then a thing?
Yeah, everything's finish the thing, finish the, yeah, I've got to get work on the thing. So, and again, with fiction too, we know, right? Like All My Puny Sorrows, that book that you were talking about is so, and if you knew my life, that was my life. That was it, and as it happened, but, we call it fiction going in. And so then with this truce book, when people say, oh, now we can read about what really happened, it's like, well, you actually could have a lot before too.
I love the title, A Truce That Is Not Peace. Where does it come from?
So it's a line from Christian Wyman, who's an American poet, whose work means an awful lot to me, and it's in one of his. There's a longer. It's part of a longer quote that's at the beginning of the book.
Oh, should I look for it?
Yeah. Just to give it context.
Oh, here it is. We might remember the dead without being haunted by them, give to our lives a coherence that is not closure, in quotes, and learn to live with our memories, our families, and ourselves amid a truce that is not peace. I think that gives me goosebumps, actually.
Yeah, I know. When I read it too, that's how I felt. I thought, okay, well, that's it. The truce.
If it's not peace, what is it?
Right. Yeah. If it's not peace, what is it?
Yeah. Okay. And the book is held together by, there's a question that's asked at the beginning and supplied to you as an essay subject from a Mexican literary conference. And they want you to answer the question, why do you write? Yeah. So, you know where I'm going here. Yeah.
So why do I write?
Yeah.
Well, again, and I guess that is, what the book is sort of, I'm attempting to answer that question and failing, of course, time after time until, eventually, the festival doesn't want me anymore. But it's so. I mean, why do I write? Why do I live? And I had this quote that I was just reading in a book, and I took a picture of it with my cell phone, but I don't have my cell phone on me. But I was gonna quote it. This writer, it's actually Patricia Lockwood, and the feeling that she gets. It's when she starts writing, and she calls it arrowedness, like it's an arrow, like you're just flying, like when you're in it, when you're between books, when you're not writing. You feel just the useless. That you're not of any significance. That you may as well be dead. That you just don't that you don't really exist. For a writer. And then once you're in it, it's just that straight line. It's suddenly you're with that straight line, and you're flying. And and that's the feeling. You're the arrow. That's the feeling. You don't know where you're going, but and that's the feeling. That's better than really anything in the world for a writer. But but is that why I write? I don't know. I have different theories. Because you could probably have that experience doing other things too, right?
I remember, because I'm so old, I got to interview people like Timothy Finley, and I'm very fortunate, but I asked him, why do you write? And his answer was against despair. That was it. Is that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely, against despair. To again make that connection, even if it's only in your mind, with other human beings. Like, I'm writing this, so I'm assuming that somebody else is going to read it, and they're going to think, yeah, I can, not that you're writing to be relatable or anything like that, but just a sense of, that I'm not alone, and then I can imagine for myself, okay, I'm not alone. I know that people are reading my stuff, and then even if I never meet them, and just in my solitude, I can feel connected to human beings, and that and thus reduce the despair.
Would you be a writer if you were not a really good typist?
Oh, that's a really good question. I took typing. That was the one thing that my mother, really, she didn't care what I did and, studied or whatever, but, you should take typing in school and, as a fallback plan, right? So that when I, so that I could be a secretary. And so I took it, and then I was just typing everything. And it just became this, just like a kind of, feature of myself, of my physical self, and my physiology or whatever. I was always typing in my mind, typing with my fingers. Every conversation, everything I heard, everything had to be typed out in my mind, in order for it to be. This was probably in the middle of a nervous breakdown too, right? This is obviously a crazy thing, but it was a thing, and I guess I just haven't stopped. Yeah.
The way you describe typing in a truce that is not peace it reminded me of that I Love Lucy episode where they're making chocolates and they're getting faster and faster and faster and faster. But it felt like it really was an extension of your body to be able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel too, like, this is just a little sort of technical thing, but when I was before I got a computer, I'm also old and have been doing this for a long time, and
Thank you for that hand.
when I got my little Mac Classic, that tiny little cube thing, and I started writing on that, and I was typing, and that's when I started. That's when it occurred to me that because you can type faster than you can write, so you can type in a way that keeps up with, with the thoughts, with the thinking, with that kind of stream of consciousness or whatever it is. in there. Yeah.
I'm keeping an eye on look at my little mini analog clock here. Isn't that cute?
Yeah, that is really cute. Do you have a strap for it?
No, I don't. I keep it in my pocket and hope it doesn't fall out.
You have it on a
But
chain.
yeah, I should do that actually. I want to ask you about the Wind Museum and how you reference different kinds of winds and how you want to start a wind museum. What's behind this?
Yeah, so the Wind Museum is a kind of, this thread in the book, this recurring, riffing on the idea of a wind museum. And the Wind Museum, of course, in the book exists as a metaphor for what it is to write, what it is to think that we can, create a wind museum where we can contain winds, to think that we can write a book where we can contain all of our thoughts and feel, everything that's in here in the book. No, I don't think it's possible. I mean, we write books and then that's what the book is, but it's never, it's never fully, a representation of, you can never, it's always necessarily a failure in that way, and, that's okay. But and the Wind Museum just seemed to me like a funny kind of metaphor for that, and also very fun to think about, the idea of creating different rooms with the different winds, and you'd have to get waivers from people if they were in the room with a strong hurricane wind or something, or so they slammed against the brick walls and, the gallery walls and things like that. And it was, as a kid, I was always thinking of a rain museum. But then it sort of morphed into the Wind Museum. I thought that was a little bit more doable. And there was a woman, I was, touring the UK, and a woman in London was a former museum curator, and she said to me, she said, your Wind Museum, I could make that happen for you. Yeah, I could. And
think of the merch.
Oh, wow. Speaking of certainty, yeah.
Right. That's awesome. I think to just, as we're rounding out our time together, Miriam, I love the joy of your younger characters so very much. And I think of Nietzsche and Aucha, who are in Women Talking, who are very high-spirited, they're rebellious, they're really fun, and they give me hope for the future. How do you see young people and the future?
Absolutely, I agree. I'm with you. I think, I think it's sort of fashionable now, maybe to think, oh, young, they're all conservative capitalist, victims of this and that, and but really, I see a lot of energy there and optimism. We were talking about, the fear, how difficult it is, now to be young, but at the same time, just the quality of youth, of what it is, not knowing necessarily, but hoping, I think, that unjadedness, and I see it in my grandchildren as well. They're little, and, they're not really, going into the world, changing the world right now. They're, really barely able to read or whatever. But they, but I look at them and I smile, and think and imagine, and so I do absolutely feel, absolutely hope.
And just a little question about Canada. Do you think young people should vote at 16? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely. Should they drive at 16? No, maybe not.
I want to close with your words, Miriam, and I'd love you to read just the last 4 pages from A Truce That Is Not Peace, if you would like to set it up.
I'll remember to put on my glasses there. Okay, so... Yeah, from here, here to the, okay. December 25th, 2023. Dear Marge, my second eldest grandchild gave me his Christmas list today. It's a bit late, and I'm trying to make out the words. A crab stuffy, a yo-yo, my own army. I thought you'd like that. And this, you'll like this. A perfect stranger walked into the house, teeming with chaos as usual, last night around dinner time. A few of us saw him come into the house and assumed he'd been invited to spend Christmas Eve with us, but by whom?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Maybe he was an old friend of my mother's, a former professor of one of my kids, a great uncle of my daughter-in-law. We called out to him, "Welcome, come on in." He sat down on the stairs and took off his snowy boots and hung up his coat on a hook and came into the kitchen, smiling, though somewhat tentative. We said, "Hello, Merry Christmas," and we gave him a drink and ushered him into the living room. The toddlers crawled all over him and smacked him a few times and knocked his glasses off, and the older kids forced him to play rock, paper, scissors without end and insisted that he tell them all his jokes, as if every stranger who wanders into one's home is a comedian with a repertoire of ready material. And we adults made polite conversation about the weather and the holidays, glancing at each other discreetly for some kind of clue or hint as to who this guy was. Finally, 20 minutes into his visit, he said, "You know, you people are so kind, but I do believe I'm in the wrong house. Does a Rocco live here?" Was there more?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. You tell me when to stop. Yeah.
I will.
Okay. Whether it goes to join thou and sit on the porch for all eternity, enjoying jokes and kisses and beautiful cold spring evenings, you and I will never know, but I can tell you what I saw. My mother remembers suddenly that today is her wedding anniversary. Now my grandchildren reenact her wedding and dance elegantly with great feeling. They don't know, of course, that there was no dancing at my mother's wedding, or that dancing, in general, was strictly forbidden in the community, a surefire path to hell. My mother cries as she watches the children waltz with comic formality around the room. She applauds, and they bow and curtsy, falling over each other, tripping on toys and lightsabers, and fighting for center stage. And there was no pain. The wind was cleansing the bones. They stood forth silver and necessary. It was not my body, not a woman's body. It was the body of us all. It walked out of the light. My son brings out a framed photo of my mother and father, both aged 21. It is their wedding photo. My son puts it in the center of the table. My youngest grandson sits at the table, alone, and stares at the photo intently with his one unpatched eye while the house falls down around him and my mother shuffles to her bedroom, puts on her wedding dress, which she has kept all this time in its original box, and dances with the children until her angina acts up and she exclaims, "Oh, phooey." This delights the children, who have never heard this word before, and they shout it out 1,000 times while my mother sits and breathes. Then, after much consultation among the children, she is given the task of keeping score for the world's most epic lightsaber battle. We all pause for a moment, silent, before it begins. Thanks.
Verklempt. I want to say what a great honor it is to talk to you on the day that you are receiving the Symons Medal so righteously. It's great. And thank you for everything that you've given the world and to us and to every individual reader. And I have to say, good luck, have fun, don't work too hard.
Okay. You too. Thank you.